There's over 2.6 million carers across Australia, and about 850,000 of those in New South Wales. And 100,000 of those in New South Wales are under the age of 25.
Where are the carers? Who are the carers in the room? Okay, let's get this out of the way first. I am completely biased, right? Completely biased. I think you are amazing. Absolutely amazing people, all of you. And the one thing that I've learnt after my father had a massive stroke in 2009, which was a complete shock to our family, is that caring for the carers is actually really, really important. Because if the carers go under, then what happens? Carers in our community are underestimated, and I think it's about time you were recognised for all of the work that you do, and I think it's about time you were put on the map, and I think it's about time the community started thinking about caring for carers, not least of which our politicians, because of the money that you save governments across the country. The stroke left Dad half paralysed. He had really bad aphasia, changed his personality completely, and my mother's very honest about it, and a lot of people don't like hearing this, but Mum said she got to a point where she no longer felt like his wife, she just felt like his nurse. Now, people don't like to hear that because then they start questioning your love for your spouse. I find that outrageous. Because there's nothing that says love and commitment more than caring for somebody that you love who's suddenly been incapacitated. About 6 months after Dad had a stroke, my new partner's son was diagnosed with a brain tumour. So we had a weird situation where we were dealing with a double whammy of, at that stage, a 5-year-old boy with a brain tumour and a man who'd been really, really healthy in his 60s with a completely debilitating stroke. So I've seen caring from a few different angles. I didn't realise how isolating it is to be a carer until I watched Mum go through it. And it's incredibly isolating and really, really difficult. And that isolation becomes more and more difficult to deal with the longer it goes on. You know, I think there are so many different messages that we can get out there about caring and what's needed in the community. I think it's really, really important. So that's why I'm here today. I'm going to kick off the discussion with some of the other carers now. And the real reason why I guess came here today was because of this woman. Marion Henry, who's here today, wrote me a letter about her experience of stroke. Now, Marion's a pretty amazing woman. She was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2001. Her husband David had a stroke in 2006. She's got a lot in common with my mum. She used to be a librarian and a teacher and also an educator of teachers. She's had quite a remarkable career, but she's been caring for her son David, who was paralysed by his stroke and is in a wheelchair. Since 2006. How has your life changed?
I was once very proud of saying that there wasn't a practical bone in my body, and then David had a stroke, and all of a sudden I found myself having to learn practical things, having to become practical, having to become awesomely responsible in a different way for your spouse, to undergo a totally changed relationship. I empathise extraordinarily much with Chris's mother. I remember my sister Judy, who's here tonight, listening as tears ran down my face and I gasped out, the last thing I ever wanted to be was a nurse. It's been a wonderful change in many ways. I've learnt to be less selfish. I've learnt that there are people in the world other than me. It's been hard, but rewarding in the best sense of the word. What I would like to see, in answer to your question and what would have helped me, is some sort of tuition, a little group of people who'd been through something like this that could have been rounded up after work at the hospital a day a week or something like that, and tell you something real.
To caring of a different type, caring for a child. This is Cheryl Koenig, and her son Jonathan was hit by a car when he was 12 years old. Cheryl, you were, like a lot of people in this room, just thrust into a caring role. Were you at all prepared for it?
There's no way you can be prepared for having your life turn, upside down in a split second like that. I am his mother and he's my best friend. So, it's been a long, hard journey. It's been 17 years, yeah. Because there is no expiry date on brain injury. If, when I get my chance to talk to clinicians, which is quite often, that's what I tell them. I didn't think of myself as a carer, and I do now, but, I now know I have full knowledge that I have the best and most important job in the world.
So what is the best thing about being a carer?
The knowledge that I am doing the single most important worthwhile job in the world, that there is nothing else that matters more than enhancing the health and the happiness of someone that you love. Never give away your power to anybody. Stay strong and stay committed, and I would say that you have to centre your life on what it is that you have, what is precious to you, what you're holding in your hand. You should never let yourself become uninformed or uninvolved or undervalued by anyone.
Barbara's 22. She's studying at university, and she's pretty much looked after a mum who has kidney failure. She's dealt with strokes, seizures, renal dialysis, all sorts of things that I could imagine are not necessarily part of most people's childhood. So as a young carer, what are the tough things that you face?
Well, I think most importantly, think about it. Under the age of 26, what did you know about who you were, your identity? You're growing up. There's so many rites of passage that you have to go through which mould who you are. And when you're a young carer, all that comes second to your caring role. So in many ways, I think on a personal level, the hardest part would be trying to find yourself and find a balance between your caring role and pursuing your dreams and your achievements, because it's hard for carers anyway, but under the age of 26, what kind of worldly experience do you have to be able to deal with that kind of stuff? I think it really puts things into perspective. Going through stuff that mum has gone through, it really, really lays the cards out on the table, and you're able to differentiate between materialistic problems and the cold hard facts that, your health is everything, and you've got to remember to be happy. Life is beautiful because it's so short and it's something that we have no control over. So perseverance is key. I think you've got to persevere through all the ups and downs because it's really rewarding.